stabilization garbage, the race war stuff for Soros' funding. This guy overthrows countries all the time. He's not playing games. He's talking about a Euro superstate with armies taking over countries that try to leave. I mean, that's in mainstream news. They are hardcore. So I don't know exactly what they're going to pull because they don't know exactly. They got a bunch of irons in the fire here. But am I trying to scare you? Absolutely, because I'm concerned. I'm scared you're not going to be prepared. And I'll be quite honest, this is a pure symbiotic 360 win. I need more money to fund our operation, especially if a total depression is going to hit. I don't want to have to downsize and lay a bunch of people off and who knows, go off the air. Everybody else is either downsizing right now or going bankrupt in media because it's such a huge bloom of so much media. I want to be one of the people standing at the end, and we're in a position to do that. We're at every metric, we're exploding in viewers and readers and listeners, and we are doing okay in revenue. But used to when revenue, when audience exploded, revenue followed it. Audience explodes, revenue explodes. I expand. Not now. Audience is just blasting, just like supernova, just super dangerous. The globalists are flipping out. I don't even like this. Okay, I hoped other people would be as big as I was, because I'm not a coward, but I'm also not stupid. I don't want the limelight. I don't want to have to do this. I act like a crazy man half the time because I'm so real. I just don't care. I want to act like an idiot, I act like one. I want to make jokes, I do it. I just, I'm for real. Everybody knows that. The globalists hate me because they know I'm for real. And they know I'm committed. And they know you're committed. They hate you as well. But you need this. You need these filters. These are the best filters. These are the best shortwave radios. These are the best non-GMO heirloom seeds, wide spectrum, 14, 16 different brands now. I had them check last week to make sure we have the lowest prices available. In many cases, we have the lowest prices. Whatever. We shouldn't even have to have the lowest prices. Everybody should go buy this stuff. In fact, I'm thinking about starting to offer some items that are at like retail where we actually get like 100%, profit or something, on it so that I can really not have to worry about making money. Because listen, I would cut way back on sponsorship if a certain point. I'm not just going to keep expanding forever because it's dangerous to expand. You can get infiltrated. It's hard to manage things. I need like 4 or 5 more editors, 4 or 5 more camera people, 4 or 5 more writers, and some more customer service and IT people. I need like 10 more people. The problem is I hire those people, I then can't give raises to the other people unless we expand, which is still a good mission because we need to expand. It's all 360 win. Everything I do is about, it's got to be a 360 win. It's got to benefit everybody unless it's the globalists. They're the parasites overrunning us, giving us no quarter. They must be defeated. Do we have Roger Stone yet? All right, we're getting him lined up. He came on short notice, and he has some technical issues. Let's just go with phone if we can do that. Now, all I'm saying is 20 to 40% off InfoWarsLife.com, Survival Shield X2, 24% off InfoWars Select Storable Foods. And when we say select, that's the name I came up with. It's just a private label. It's the full spectrum of the high quality My Patriot supply. And you can buy the full spectrum of My Patriot. It's drop ship from them at InfoWarsStore.com, right next to InfoWars Select if you'd like. And by the way, this is fresh, new food. They made me stop the special a few months ago because they were about to sell out and couldn't even keep up with capacity. InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com, or call toll-free 888-253-3139. And the Hillary for Prison shirts are now back in stock. The new design, it's the same overall design, but a red InfoWars.com on the right shoulder. Very handsome shirt. Now, joining us for a brief interview until the end of the hour is Roger Stone of StoneZone.com, former head of the campaign, the Trump campaign. His business partner, of course, is currently the head of the campaign. And Roger Stone, joining us via video Skype, has written a powerful article for Town Hall about would Ronald Reagan vote for Donald Trump, and another powerful article that we've been covering, the fact that he, in many polls like Rasmussen, is now ahead of Hillary. And I know I talked to Stone and others over the weekend, and he said, look, in most polls, they're a dead heat or Trump's ahead, but that's internal polling. Hillary's putting out all these fake polls. So to talk polls and to talk Ronald Reagan, the Gipper, that's his article. What would he think of the great Trumpkin? Thank you for joining us, Mr. Stone.
Alex, great to be back with you. I'm calling from the New York bunker today where I'm hunkered down in front of the computer writing.
Well, you've got the floor. Thank you for your time. Tell us first about these polls. And I know you like to be too optimistic, but this is pretty exciting. Let's get into your article in Town Hall.
Sure. I think it's very important to understand the dynamics of this election. In Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, you have very polarizing figures who have great intensity among their supporters and great animosity against their detractors, those who are opposed. The country is fairly evenly divided between left and right. Therefore, this race, I think, is never going to be in a situation in which either candidate is out of range of winning. So it doesn't really matter whether Donald Trump is down 5 points next week, but leading by 5 points the week after that. I expect the race to seesaw. Polling is an art form. There are good pollsters and bad pollsters. By that I mean there are accurate pollsters, and there are pollsters who make methodological errors in terms of...
Sure, to try to create the perspective that Hillary's really winning.
Well, some of them certainly are. The left-leaning polls, take PPP, for example. They'll never show the Republicans winning in any state, or they'll never show numbers that are...
Yeah, Hillary's 800 points ahead, according to them, yeah.
Yeah, but look, in all honesty, we're citing the Rasmussen poll today. I've been very critical of Rasmussen, Alex, because 4 years ago, he continued to take surveys without including Gary Johnson and Judge Jim Gray, two good friends of mine, in his ballots. And that's unprofessional. They were on the ballot in 48 states.
Absolutely. What can you tell us about internal polling? I know some of that's held close to the vest, but I've talked to some other folks. They say...
Well, look, here, all I can say, and I can't, and this is anecdotal, of course, and in no way formal, but it is my understanding that in certain swing states, acknowledging that Trump had a rough couple weeks, but I think has certainly turned the corner on that and is now back on the upswing, helped, ironically, by additional issues pertaining to international Islamic terrorism. In the several key states that you and I would both refer to as swing states, particularly some of the medium-sized swing states, Trump continues to lead, and all the others, he continues to hold his own. If you're in this race, if you're up 3 points, well, that's probably within the margin of error. Now, there is a problem of chronically sampling Republicans that I have seen in many of these mainstream polls. That's one way to cook the poll. Sometimes they oversample key democratic groups. That's also a way to cook these polls. But so I just think any consumer out there reading the media who reads about the polls should take them with a grain of salt. Trump's own polling and polling friendly to him shows that he is certainly in a position to win this race.
You never gave me any Trump secrets. I mean, obviously, that's why you're a confidant. But you did a few times say, this is what you're going to see in Wisconsin. This will be the real numbers. This is what you're going to see in this state. And you were just incredibly accurate every time. So I know you like to lowball things so that people don't get too optimistic. But I tell you, if he keeps getting more and more of these Reagan Democrats and people that have never voted, and I see the internet searches, Google can track this, are a lot of people that have never voted are now really getting involved in looking at Trump. And a lot of folks are also scared to say they're for Trump because of political correctness, but I think you're really going to go for Trump. I think you add that into the skew of the polls, and I think Trump really is. I think Trump's probably really about 5 points ahead. And I think if he keeps hammering and savaging Hillary, then he's going to end up maybe beating her in a landslide.
Well, that is, of course, the strategic imperative of his campaign. Look, Alex, if this election is about Donald Trump, then Trump will lose. But if this election is about Hillary Clinton, which it should be because it's a referendum on the past 8 years, and I think we all acknowledge her policies would essentially be a continuation.
That's right, stay there. She's the establishment. It needs to be, hey, he's new, she's old. We need to get rid of her. She's guilty for where we are. Great point, Roger Stone. Stay with us. We'll be back with more of them. All right, Roger Stone is with us a little bit in the next hour. Then I am going to open the phones up to talk about whatever issue, long-time callers, first-time callers, new listeners, people that disagree, agree, whatever. We got a bunch of news we're going to cover then as well. 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. StoneZone.com is his website. He's got 2 books out on Hillary Clinton's war on women and the Bush crime family and how they all work together. Absolutely. Talk about a referendum on the corrupt, rotten Washington establishment, and Trump coming out with that economic speech and saying Hillary is an agent of the Chinese. He said the Chinese are in a trade war with us, and she's an agent against us in that war, and the era of surrender is over. We're already in a trade war, and we're losing badly. This is Pure Veritas speaking on how Trump's really getting aggressive and suddenly surges in polls. And then let's get into what would Ronald Reagan think of Trump, because you knew both men very, very well and know Trump.
Well, Alex, first of all, I appreciate InfoWars publishing my piece, which makes the very case that Reagan and Trump were very similar in many ways, both unabashed believers in American power and American sovereignty, both nationalists, both outside the control of the Wall Street, K Street elite. Certainly, Reagan had his relationship with them, but he wasn't like Trump. He was an outsider. He came from a different discipline than politics, that being entertainment. But he also had the larger-than-life celebrity quality that Trump has. When you meet Trump, you know you've met a superstar. I mean, he has a presence that is filling arenas across the country in the last year. And like Reagan, I think Donald has ability to make himself understood. He talks in a way that people can relate to. Like Reagan, he talks in a way that working people particularly can relate to. Beyond that, he has a great sense of humor, as Reagan did. And he's a fighter. They were both fighters. When Reagan was on the verge of knockout in the 1976 campaign after taking beating after beating after beating by Gerald Ford, he stayed in the race when all of his top advisors, and I was a junior advisor, or junior staffer, but all of his top advisors and his wife were telling him to get out. You're done. Get out. Had he dropped out then in 1976, he would never have been the nominee 4 years later. It was only seeing it through to the convention and fighting it out and losing by a handful of votes that positioned him for the nomination 4 years later. So Trump has that fighter instinct, that he's a brawler. This guy can't wait to take on the left. And Hillary Clinton must know at this point that all of her crimes are going to be delineated by the Republican candidate, every single one of them, in terms that people can understand.
I mean, I know that Trump and Reagan had dinner at some dinners and had met each other. Do you know what Reagan thought of Trump, or did it ever come up?
Well, it's interesting. President Reagan, like President Nixon, who met Donald Trump in George Steinbrenner's private box at Yankee Stadium, both Reagan and Nixon urged Trump to run for public office. Now, in Nixon's case, he said, Donald, you might want to take a look at the governor's office first. But Trump, frankly, is too big for the governor's office. Or I should say the governor's office is too small for him. His focus has always been on national issues and international issues like trade. So, but it's interesting that two of the best politicians of the last 40 years both met Trump and urged him to run for public office.
Absolutely, but having Trump run and just be a governor, that's like Shamu at SeaWorld. It just doesn't fit. That's why it's animal torture in my view, and I'm not even a PETA supporter. We'll be back in 70 seconds with one more segment with Roger Stone. Then it's your phone calls on this live Global Thursday edition. We started the term 1776 worldwide, popularized the term that an economist gave me the answer in 1984, 1776. But now from the Financial Times of London to New Yorker Magazine to you name it, they're saying Alex Jones, the mad prophet of the Tea Party, is spreading worldwide. And, of course, Trump is now the big mega god of the movement. I mean, they use terms like that with a horrible infection, and the CFR says it's spreading worldwide. It's like they're having 1776 in Europe. Now 30, because they've got 30 members, want to leave. It was 8. I mean, they are panicking. Nationalism is exploding. Our terms are getting picked up everywhere. This is